excuse my shaggy appearance, but I have the answer. After this, you'll never have to watch or read anything ever again. Because this is the most foolproof, the most surefire posting schedule in the history of the internet. And I came up with it myself. I am the greatest writer, the greatest poster, the most amazing artist of this century. And I am going to share my posting schedule with you. This is not exaggeration. This is not totally over the top and overblown. This is legit. You ready to hear what it is? Because I'm about to give it to you. Pause. But first, I need to give you a word from our sponsors. Me. That feels so weird saying. But look, it's all well and good knowing how often you should post. But if you don't know how to post the right things, you're completely wasting your time. That's why you need to sign up for Magnetic Writing. It's the first link in the description. Just check it out. It's cool. But more on that later. Now, I'm not going to tease you any longer, okay, that's all the foreplay done. I know this intro is a little bit crazy, a little bit extravagant, but you gotta try a new thing every now and then, you know? And besides, this is the greatest writing, posting schedule in the entire world. The entire universe, even. So, forgive me if the intro was a little bit over the top, but here it is, okay? It's right here. You ready to see it? Here it is. Amazing, right? Wait, what? Here's the thing, man. I know I just did that whole elaborate intro, but it's all bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's all bullshit. But the truth is, there is no such thing as a special posting schedule. There's no such thing as the perfect time to post. There's no such thing as the perfect amount of frequency for you to post. And if you want to click off the video now, I totally understand, but I do promise I am going to give you some source in this video, so don't leave so prematurely. That would be a bit short-sighted of you. Because look, I could be a guru and I could sit here and tell you to write and post every single day. And I did that, and I got some decent results. In my first year of writing and posting every day, I got 15,000 followers on Medium. But the reality is, I could tell you to do the exact same thing, and you would get completely different results. Even if we wrote at the exact same time, about the exact same topics, with the exact same frequency, we would still get completely different results. Because what you write is way more important than how often you write. For example, when I started writing, I knew some other people who also started writing. While I had 15,000 followers, they still have less than 100. They were writing just as much as me, but the difference is they weren't writing the right things. And this is something that most people who start writing just don't understand. They think that if they keep throwing rubbish at the wall, eventually something will stick. Well, this rubbish isn't paint, okay? Paint can stick on the wall. Rubbish is just gonna hit the wall and fall down. It doesn't work like that. And to prove it to you, I want to use a guy called Naval as an example. Naval is this guy, he's really big on Twitter, very interesting individual. He was an entrepreneur, he had a startup, he's an investor. But I think most importantly and most interesting about him is he's a philosopher. He's like a modern day philosopher. And his tweets go absolutely mental, even though he doesn't really post that much. For this video, I had a look at how many times he's tweeted. Obviously, he's probably deleted quite a few over the years. But if you go on his account, it says he's tweeted 26,000 times. For context, when I was on Twitter, I posted about 40,000 times in just 1 year. While I only had 1,000 followers, Naval has 2.7 million followers. And while my top tweet might have had 100 likes, his top tweet might have millions of likes. I don't know. But the point is, what you write is a lot more important than how often you write. Because Naval, he tweets very sparingly. Whereas I used to tweet multiple times a day, sometimes 10 times per day. And that's not even including the hundreds of comments I used to leave just begging people. And by the way, this is what people do on Twitter. It wasn't me just being a weirdo. The meta on Twitter is just to comment on as many big accounts as possible in the hopes that someone will just come and follow you. It's really stupid, but that's how it is over there. So while I was doing all that, Naval would just make one tweet one sentence, and it would just pop off because of the way it was written, the subject that was being tackled. The point is, the difference between our engagement metrics has nothing to do with how often we're scheduling posts. The truth is, there are a lot of factors. For one, Naval's tweets are very insightful. He has a very unique perspective, and whenever you read a Naval tweet, you feel like you're learning something new. Most people who write on Twitter don't have that effect because they just don't have the same life experience. For context, he's about 50 years old, right? When you reach 50 years old and you've achieved all these things, you're going to be a lot more interesting. Which leads me to my second point. Naval has a reputation, whereas when you first start writing online, you're starting from zero. Like, unless you've actually done things in the real world, you literally have nothing. Your reputation is literally non-existent. So you have to accept that people with a reputation are going to perform a lot better than you at first. When you first start, you do have to brute force your way in to an extent, but that isn't a very sustainable strategy. It's far better to develop a reputation, become a great writer, develop your perspectives, develop your consciousness, which is something that Naval has done, clearly. And when you get to that point, you don't have to tweet 10 times per day. You can just post one thing per month and it will just pop off because what you're saying is more important than how often you're saying it. With that said, I am going to give you a posting schedule. I just wanted to set your expectations before we continued because your posting schedule is not the thing that's going to skyrocket your writing career. Your content is going to do that, not how often you post. So now the question is, how often should you be posting? And this is the billion-dollar question, the trillion-dollar question that's on all of our minds. Well, to find the answer, I don't want to just parrot what other people are doing. I think it's good to look at other industries to see how prolific they were and how often they were working and releasing things. So, I'm going to use my favorite example, the Beatles. During the Beatles' early years, they were working all the time. If you look at their Wikipedia page with like how many tours they had, how many live shows they had in between 1963 or 1962 to 1966, it was literally insane how much they were performing. And on top of all of those performances, they were also fitting in studio recordings. Their first album was recorded in one day, which is unheard of. Like, that's craziness. You do not record an album in a day. And even after that, they were still operating with these really, really strict schedules because of how intense their touring schedule was. They'd have to record these amazing albums like Rubber Soul in 2 weeks. Crazy stuff, right? And as their fame grew, their workload only continued to increase. The tours got bigger and bigger. They were going all over the world. And when they weren't touring, they had to be in the studio making the next album for the next tour. It was like this constant cycle, right? But what's interesting is, during this time, when they were touring and working so relentlessly, they didn't produce their best work. Isn't that interesting? They were getting better. I think there is a clear progression in their artistry and their musicianship. But all of their most iconic music came after they decided to quit touring forever and only focus on recording music in the studio, recording albums. In other words, when they first started, their main goal was just quantity, just more, just do more, just constantly be working. They put the most severe hustle mindset workaholics to shame, like with how much they were working in the early days of their careers. But after putting in the reps, building their reputation, establishing themselves as not only massive draws, but as respectable and talented artists, they could step back, they could stop doing the main thing they were spending their time on, which was touring, and instead focus on what they wanted to be doing, which was making music in the studio. Do you see how this can help you approach writing online as well? I know it's a different example, but I think it's a pretty good analogy for how you can also approach writing. When you first start and you're starting from zero, you want to be doing it as much as possible because you're not that good yet. Not only are you not that good yet, by writing every day and consistently improving, you're going to build momentum. But then, once you've built that momentum, once you've established that reputation, it doesn't make sense to keep going with the same strategy of just relentless quantity. You want to take a step back and you instead want to focus on what you're making, as opposed to how often you're making it. To crystallize this even further for you, there are channels on YouTube that are just constantly pumping out content. Constantly. It's like a never-ending stream, like Niagara Falls. But these channels are not that great, right? They're not that remarkable. The only reason I know about them is because I saw like a Penguin Zero video. There's a guy with 1 million videos or something on his channel. It's not like he has 1 million subscribers or he has like these incredible videos. He's just got very, very basic videos, but he's got so many of them that he's got some form of traction. Endless quantity is not the answer. It's good for getting started, but after a while, you want to just start making better things. And if you start making better things, like Naval on Twitter, you will have the audience, you will have the engagement, and you will have the reach. Think back to the Beatles. The Beatles could not sacrifice touring and just focus on the studio if they hadn't first established themselves as the biggest music act in the world. Their manager at the time did not want them to quit touring because that's the main way they were making money and the main way they were really supporting themselves. But turns out, I mean, they were just as profitable in the studio, and if anything, not touring just made their music so much better because they could focus all of that energy into just recording the best stuff. And much like the Beatles, you have to keep getting better. It's getting better all the time. The problem is, most people who start just don't have the patience to keep going because they don't get that initial positive reinforcement to keep going. They need proof that it's going to work, and if they don't get that proof, they just get discouraged and quit immediately. And look, I don't really blame them. I'm not saying that just being mindlessly consistent and determined is always the best option. For some people, it's not. And look, social media is like a cancer on the brain. And it can ruin people's lives. It's very hard seeing people crush it, doing the exact same thing you're doing, while you're not getting any of the same results. You're seeing people succeeding, but you're not experiencing that yourself. That could be very difficult for many people. And I totally understand how that feels. I empathize with that. But if you want to be a good writer, if you want to be a successful writer, you need to change your entire perspective around writing. Because writing is not a get-rich-quick fix. And this is the main reason why so many people who write on Medium fail. They're expecting it to be something it isn't. The truth is, writing is not something you can just half-ass and succeed at, or as you Americans say, half-ass. When you write, you're choosing to become a writer. You're not just writing as like this cute little habit. You're creating an identity, a new identity. You're becoming someone completely new, and you're learning a completely leverageable skill that can scale to infinity. And this skill is the only thing standing in between you and your goals. If you want to have a best-selling book sometime in the future, you have to write. If you want to make a movie one day, you have to write the screenplay. If you want to grow 1 million followers on social media, you have to write so much valuable content that people can't help but follow you. If you want to change the way you think and just become an overall happier person, you have to write in your gratitude journal, whatever you use. Writing is a force of creation. It's creation condensed. And the fact is, if your creation isn't that good, it's not going to get noticed. It's going to get ignored, regardless of how often you share it, regardless of how often you post it. So, how often should you post? Well, I'm going to give you the most boring answer in the entire world, but it's the truth, and I value the truth, and I value you. So, the truth is, it completely depends on your goal. I know that might sound like a cop-out answer, but just listen. I don't know your exact situation. If you're someone who has a full-time job, you're married, you have kids, you have responsibilities, it makes absolutely no sense for me to tell you to drop everything and start writing every single day. That's not feasible. Whereas if you're young, you're looking for direction in life, you don't have any responsibilities, you've got loads of free time, then yeah, in your situation, it makes loads of sense to spend a lot of time writing. Every day, if possible. Do you see how this is nuanced? I can't sit here and shout at you. I can't yell at you to do one thing because it depends. It's relative. Not everyone is in the exact same situation, which is the fucking problem with social media, where people just act like there's one universal way to do things and any other way is incorrect. That's bullshit. I can't give you the perfect posting schedule because it's different for everyone. There is no magic slot that will get you boosted to heaven. There is no special posting strategy that will guarantee you 1 million followers on social media. If you want those achievements, if you want to experience those things, the posting is absolutely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is your content. I'm telling you right now, Naval is not sitting there thinking, oh shit, it's 2 p.m. on Tuesday. I better write something or no one's going to read my stuff. Like, no. And none of his followers are thinking that as well. None of his followers are waiting with bated breath. Oh God, it's 3 o'clock and Naval hasn't posted yet. Is everything okay? They're not thinking that, okay? Neither of these parties are thinking that. Naval is simply great at writing content. He posts his content, and whenever he posts, regardless of the time, his followers and people on Twitter and the entire world read what he has to say. Why? Because it's good. If you want to learn how to improve your writing, click the first link in the description. If you're serious about becoming a digital writer in 2025 and want to take your writing skills to the next level, click the second link in the description. Now that you know there's no such thing as a posting schedule, you'll have to learn how to come up with good ideas. If you want to learn how to do that, watch this next video. I'll see you there. Bye.